policy, 2 public forum sessions will be held during the council meeting. 1 public forum session will be held following the acknowledgement of Broken Hill's mining history, to hear submissions from the public on matters listed for consideration at this meeting, and to also hear submissions on general matters. And the other public forum session will be held prior to confidential matters and will consider submissions from the public on matters considered by council at this meeting only. All councillors undertook an oath or an affirmation at the beginning of their term of office and declared to undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Broken Hill local government area and the city of Broken Hill, and that they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers and authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment. This council meeting is being live streamed via YouTube and recorded and published via council's website. To those present in the gallery today, by attending or participating in this public meeting, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Mayor and/or General Manager have the authority to pause or terminate the stream if comments or debate are considered defamatory, otherwise inappropriate for publishing. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if they engage in unlawful behaviour or commentary. We have nil apologies. We have 1 leave of absence from Councillor Dave Gallagher. Can we have someone move that? Move Councillor Turley, seconded Deputy Mayor Hickey. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We move on to the public forum session. We have a couple of people that have given notice. Miss Gigi Barb, if you'd like to come up and ask the questions.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Back in 2023, when I was president of the Broken Hill Bridge Club, I applied for a grant to improve on the building facilities. And the grant was through the Crown Reserve Improvement Fund, and it was backed by council. So the letter approving $48,232 arrived in May 2024. We received a copy at the Bridge Club. It was addressed as a general manager. Since then, I've retired from the committees, and I'm totally unaware of where we're at with this funding.
The general manager is happy to answer and give you an update on where it is at.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Tom. So there is a meeting scheduled tomorrow with the committee. It was in regard to the asset optimisation strategy for the Bridge Club and a number of the other buildings within the city that came back around the utilisation rate, and looking at potential co-location of user groups and how to best utilise those funds which could be transferred. So those conversations started happening late last year with the president and the committee. They'll put on hold during the election process. So that stakeholder engagement has recommenced this week with those meetings tomorrow with the Bridge Club in particular, and then the BIU band after that, in regards to what those buildings could look like in the future, making sure that we're actually getting that co-location or potential co-location, but trying to push for better assets over lots of assets, I guess. So, better rather than a lot of assets. So that consultation will happen tomorrow for the Bridge Club and the BIU band hall. There'll be some other consultation with other user groups as well across all the council's facilities that started about 2 years ago. And then that report will come back to council for councillors to make a decision based on what the future looks like for some of those assets. We have spoken to the funding body. If it is to be spent in its current location, the Bridge Club, they're happy to obviously extend the time frame for that money to be spent on those upgrades to the toilets. But also, if the Bridge Club and the committee decide that they'd like to look at alternatives, then that funding can also be transferred to other assets as well. So that consultation needs to happen with the stakeholders, and it'll come back to councillors for a decision.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Your second question?
My second question was regarding something I mentioned previously in council meeting, which was the absence of display notice boards around town. At the moment, community organisations such as the Bridge Club and the CWA and other wonderful organisations are organising events for the community, but we're fighting for notice board room on the shopping centre notice boards, fighting with lost cats and dogs for sale. So my question is council planning as part of their community engagement to have display boards around town that would be controlled by council, so you wouldn't have any sorts of random ads there. Is that any part of the
So there's
strategy?
also a bit of good news or potential good news that the general manager might fill you in on.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Tom, through you. So council staff are currently investigating the potential for electronic notice boards, so very similar to what the school systems have in different locations in the city where we could actually have that rolling. We expect those costs to come through and actually form part of the quarterly budget review in February. At this stage, it's only proposed for one sign and see how that goes. And then if it's successful, obviously then councillors might be able to extend that, but not the traditional paper form. The staff resources to control that would be too excessive. So looking at those electronic notice boards similar to what the school system, schools in Broken Hill have. Thank you, Mayor Tom.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Matt? Just say your name for the tape. Thanks, Matt, and just what you're talking about.
Righto, so my name's Matt Sullivan. I'm here tonight to represent Salcon Engineering. That's my brother and I, younger brother and I, we started that company in November 2021. So we've been in business now for 3 years. Prior to that, I've been in mining since I was 16, so 16, 17 years. Isaac's about 14 years. So it's not a spur of the moment decision. This is something that we do for a living and we've been doing for a long time. So yeah, basically, we're looking to build a commercial shed, a commercial workshop at 92 Kristen Street. The issue is the building that's on there now is heritage listed. It's zoned correctly for what we want. It's light industrial zone. But yeah, so being heritage listed, that's the issue. So when it went to auction, they didn't get a bid at auction. It was far too run down. The structural integrities, it's beyond, I believe it's beyond, I mean, nothing's beyond repair, but economically there's hundreds of thousands of dollars need to be sunk into it to get it back to a structural standard. Yeah, so I'm hoping we can work with council with landscaping, the colour scheme, yeah, come to a conclusion and a good outcome, and we can build our workshop. And yeah, we plan on being there for a long time. We have 2 local apprentices. We got 4 tradesmen, and yeah, all local. And yeah, we like to keep it local. It's good opportunities. It's good street appeal for Broken Hill. And yeah, we're very Broken Hill proud. So we won't let you down if we do get the vote and get the go ahead. And yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you, Matt. Any other speakers? No. Before we move on to minutes for confirmation, could we have Councillor Boland do the prayer?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Almighty God, we ask you to invoke your blessing upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement and the true welfare of the people of the council area, our state and Australia. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Councillor Byrne, you happy to do the acknowledgement country, if you've got one? Someone will have one.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet today, the land of the Willakali people, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you. Councillor Jewett, you'd like to do the mining history?
Kennedy. We take time to reflect, remember and honour the over 800 miners that lost their lives and those that were crippled or maimed on the line of flow. We thank the brave miners and their wives who were part of the 1919 to 1920 strike that lasted over 500 days and delivered a 35-hour working week. Mining is our past and future.
Thank you. Minutes for confirmation. Do we have someone to move the minutes? Move Deputy Mayor Hickey, seconded Councillor Byrne. Any comments on the minutes? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest?
I have a non-pecuniary interest on item 11. the company involved in the DA provides services to my place of employment. And I will leave the chamber.
Thank you.
I also have a non-pecuniary interest in the same item 11, report 1125, primary employment used at arts transport. I will remain in the chamber and exercise my vote.
Thank you. Thank you. We have nil mayoral minutes, nil notices of motion, nil notices of rescission. Reports from delegates are nil. We'll move on to item 14, which is reports. Item number 1 is correspondence report upgrades to the Broken Hill Airport, support larger aircraft during times of emergency.
Move the
Councillor Gates,
recommendation.
move, seconded.
Move recommendation 1 to 3.
Councillor Chandler. Yes, Councillor Gate.
Yeah, I think it's disappointing, Mayor Kennedy, that we put the facts in front of the various ministers. And in particular, we stressed the importance of the upgraded runway in terms of getting larger aircraft, particularly in times of disaster like the recent power outages where equipment and personnel and services had to be flown in at short notice. And I mean, we're not in a position to do that on a day-by-day basis. And it became very clear on the last occasion that we were poorly situated in real terms in dealing with that particular problem, a problem that probably will be repeated at other times at some time during the next decade or so. So whilst the ministers appear to be sympathetic, all they have done really is refer us to this government's white paper, aviation white paper, suggesting that funding might be available within the next 3 years. But in doing that, we put our hat in the rings with all the other councils, and there's nothing guaranteed. So it is disappointing.
Yeah, just to the general manager, we were not back on our recent. Could you explain to councillors on that one?
Thank you through you, Mayor Kennedy. We were unsuccessful in the latest federal funding through the Growing Regions program for the infrastructure upgrades of the runway as well. So this was round 2. We were previously unsuccessful with round 1. We did seek feedback at that point in time, and the advice that we received back from the government was that the application was good, but it was oversubscribed. And to put it back in again for round 2, there wasn't any issues with the actual application itself. Upon those advocacy measures and the meetings that we did have ministers in July when we were in Canberra, and then following that as well, the ministers made it very clear that they supported the application, and it made sense given that it had a benefit to cost ratio of +1, 1.19, which is unheard of for regional airports to actually have that economic benefit. So we were pretty positive going into round 2. Again, we were unsuccessful for that funding. We have sought advice through the grants department, but we've also reached out to our member for Parks, Mr. Coulton, to get some more feedback as well, to actually give us some clarification in regards to what needs to be improved next time, based on the advice that we were getting from the ministers and the senior bureaucrats around the application, so that we are successful in future rounds. We have still got other applications in through another grant program with the federal government, but we'll also be putting in through the Regional Trust Reserve with the New South Wales government as well, as the highest priority. But yeah, very unfortunate that we were unsuccessful, and it didn't help last time with the unhelpful feedback we did receive. Thank you, Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, General Manager. Would you like to just add another item there, or another paragraph, just that we write to the Minister, the Shadow Minister, and our local member, just explaining our disappointment, the importance of the airport upgrade,
Yeah, certainly.
particularly with the emergency and our cost benefit ratios. Who's second? Councillor Chandler, you happy to? Yep. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Sorry.
Just make a comment. I agree. I'm hopeful that what the General Manager said, but We have to realise we're dealing with politicians, and politicians don't always do what they tell you they're going to do. I find it disappointing that on the one hand, the government has given us $10 million to do up the aprons, the amenities, the car parks and all the rest of it. You would think that the next move would be, as a common sense follow-up, would be to do the runway. Because it's no good having a big, no good having a top class, aprons and terminal and car parking facilities and all the rest if you can't land big planes, larger aircraft.
Thank you, councillor Allgate. Yeah, look, it really is disappointing. Beyond that, the resources of the region. So the state component of that 5 million of that 10 million come from resources to regions. We no longer have access to resources to regions, and it shows you the importance of that program to a mining city. Other states have it, and we need to continue to fight to keep it, or get it back, I should say. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2, introduction of regional airfare zone cap subsidy for return flights between Sydney regional and remote locations of New South Wales. Councillor Allgate.
Move the recommendations 1 to 3 as written.
Seconded. Deputy Mayor Hickey. Councillor Allgate.
Well, there's not a great deal to say about that. It's working wonderfully in Western Australia, I understand, and there's a crying need for people who are disadvantaged in rural and regional New South Wales to be afforded the same sort of privilege. If the return airfares were capped at a reasonable level, you'd get more flow of transport in both directions. But via Sydney is important because our school teachers, our policemen, our fire brigade people, all the people that are in government positions, they rely on getting back to the East Coast to visit family and all the rest of it. And, the airfares are prohibitive. I suppose the only good thing that's come out of Rex's disaster is the fact that I suppose we should note that at least the federal government has earmarked $50 million to secure their $50 million debt. And I think that's about the only thing we should be happy about.
Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. Yeah, look, in support of what Bob was saying, we've had meetings with a lot of the councils in Western Australia, and it works absolutely perfect over there. And that's why we brought it up in the first place in New South Wales government. It's not for every town. It's for far west towns that need it drastically to get people in and out from the eastern seaboard. But you still have to be a resident here to qualify. It wouldn't cost them that much money, and yet be a huge bonus to far west regions. I thought the replies were quite weak that we got from the ministers. It was they just passed it on to somebody else and made no decision. Didn't even pass it before government, I wouldn't imagine. So I think we need to write again. I think we need to push it much harder. And I think when we get a chance to talk to ministers in Sydney, we'll be bringing it up.
So the same people again.
Same people again.
Councillor Allgate, happy with that? Mentioned Rex Airlines as well, $50 million. It's important if you're going to invest money in infrastructure that you also invest money in areas that attract flights or increase the accessibility to regional communities in New South Wales. We've got all. Yeah. Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Just noting the Minister for Regional Transports and Roads replied to State Member Roy Butler, stating that the number of transport options, including the New South Wales train link once a week, pretty weak, I consider, from the state government to put that in there when it comes in, I think, on a Monday evening and leaves on a Tuesday. I know the retired Councillor Brown was always keen about going on a bit of a train journey. I think there's an option there, not only for airfares, but increase that train service at 3 times a week. And it not only benefits Broken Hill and the Broken Hill tourism scene, it also benefits every small community between Parks and Broken Hill, such as Ivanhoe, Menindee, etc. We know the Indian Pacific no longer provides services for ordinary people. So I thought it was a bit weak that she threw in New South Wales Trainlink when it's once a week.
If you'd like to move a motion at the end of the business about writing off about the train, I'm sure councillors would accept that. Councillor Turley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wondered if we should include there that the mayor and the general manager makes representation as a delegation to meet with Minister Tara Moriarty and Jenny Aitchison. I think that getting in front of them again and again and again and making it difficult for them to say no is the best way forward.
Are you happy to add that, councillor Holgate? Yeah. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3, Office of Local Government Councillor Conduct and Meeting Practice Review. We have a mover for that. Moved Councillor Gillett, seconded Councillor Chandler. Councillor Gillett?
I'd just like to say that I think this is a much better format.
If you just pull your microphone down, that's
Sorry.
it. No, that's better.
It is much easier to understand. It's clearer, straight to the point. Definitely improvement.
Any other councillors? No. Look, I think it's important that it is, you do go through that. I always had a problem with briefings, and the fact that briefings were, in my opinion, a decision-making tool. Most of the councillors would put their arguments before people in a room and then come in. There wouldn't be much arguing going in front of people. So I'm with you. I think it's a really good start, and I'm glad that we do have a local government, a minister for local government that was a mayor for a long time and a mayor before the change of act and understands the importance of the role of councillors in the community. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 4 is adoption of the draft events management policy. We have a mover for that. Moved Councillor Jewett, seconded Councillor Turley. Councillor Jewett?
Yeah, I had some questions after Councillor Jewett speaks.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Yeah, I'm happy to support this policy. I think it's, events and festivals are vital for our businesses, tourism, communities, and minimise incidences and to having it across the board. So that, you can get compliance and just, reduction of safety, but an enjoyment of events, not stopping them from going ahead. So I support this policy.
Thank you. Councillor Turley?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, it's always good to upgrade our policies and develop them. I just had some questions, and I couldn't on the link on the report open the link for the form, and I just wanted to know a few things around that. One is, does it drop down automatically the price that is for the event, or is it that you have to manually write that in? So for whatever event you've got. The other one is the temporary road closures. I think on page 111, is there a link for the Road and Traffic Committee to automatically put in your application for road closures? And the third, just to make it usable for those applying for events. And the last one, I think it was in this section, was in section 10.5. Do you need proof of food handling certificates if you've got a food store? It says someone should be there, but do we as council have a responsibility to check if someone does have that certification on food handling?
Thank you, Mayor Tom. I'll try and remember them, Councillor Turley, but the first one, it does provide a price in some instances, but mostly it will actually go through the application process because there's a number of determinations in regards to the event size. First assessment is done by council officers, and then they'll get back to the applicant in regards to the cost based on the size of the event with the number of people. So they'll obviously see the higher fee, but then if there's other implications in regards to when you look at the risk assessment from 100 people up to 1,000 people, that price will then come back to the applicant upon the first assessment. The second one is that it will be referred to Traffic Committee as a part of the application. There is a separate form, but that'll be a part of the process that council officers undertake. So that'll go through to Traffic Committee. And number 3, we do check food handling certificates for food vendors as along with like with public liability insurance, given that it is on a council asset.
Yeah, I just couldn't see that in the report. It says you must have, but I couldn't see that proof is required.
Any other comments? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 5 is Town Square location of the Women's Mining Memorial. We have a mover.
Move the recommendations 1 to
Council-
4.
Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor Byrne. Councillor Allgate.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. This particular matter has been a fairly emotional situation. There's been several sites over a period of time. There's been several sites recommended. Everybody's got their own idea. I suppose the council's got its view. But in the last survey that was held, and it was a fairly successful survey with 708 people commenting. 70% of those that voted, those respondents, they voted to have it retain it at the town square. The only question that rises out of that is dealt with by recommendation 4, where the project consultant suggests that either one of the 2 Argent Street corners of the square be the sites from which we choose. So it's suggested now that the council hold another survey and ask the people where they want it, whether they want it on the Bon Mar side or the Charlotte's coffee shop side. And right from the word go, I think the mayor and the council agreed that it was a decision that should be made by the community, and we followed that right through. So we now should take the last step and have that final survey and act upon it.
Yeah, look, the project consultative committee looked at it as well. So they're councillors and members of the community. I will allow or have Councillor Byrne speak because he's also a member of that committee. If you'd like to speak.
Yeah,
Councillor
so
Byrne.
the obviously from the committee it was overwhelming support to have it back in the town square. So that's what we've done. I strongly support the recommendation to move it back there. The survey results clearly show that the community's desire to keep it in the heart of Broken Hill, and the location from the renderings look great, and they actually give a really good example of what both sites look like. So, returning the memorial to the central space not only preserves its historical significance, but also reflects council's ongoing commitment to inclusive decision making. We look forward to the public comment of what the renderings look like and it going back into the town square.
Well said. Any other speakers? No. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 6 is occupancy rate data for 5-year period, Far West Local Health District. Councillor Allgate.
Move that the recommendations be received and noted.
Seconded. Councillor Gillett. Councillor Allgate, you'd like to speak to that?
Only to say that the graph on page 143 clearly details the increasing number of beds occupied by aged people awaiting transfer to nursing homes when beds become available. It's really suggesting that on occasions 25% of the entire hospital beds are occupied by aged care residents waiting admission to one of the nursing homes. That's a bit frightening. Right from the word go, we went from an enormous hospital to a hospital that was certainly underscored, 80 bed hospital. I think it was based on a population of about either 12 or 9,000, which was never going to happen. And we're left with this dilemma. So if there's a surge in whatever diseases, and we have an influx of people that need to go into hospital, we've got to remember that 25% of the beds are already taken, no matter what. Bit of a worry, really.
Yes, and we're trying to increase the population with a hospital that's well below what we already have, so add aged care or people that should be in aged care at that hospital. Our hospital is really small for the size of our community and really small considering we're trying to grow the community.
Well, we've really got a hospital that caters for about 55 beds.
Yeah.
Now, once you subtract the 25 from,
And was only designed for a population of 9 or 10,000.
yeah,
Councillor Byrne?
Just a question, just from jog my memory, was this purported requirement to council for Far West Health, or did we ask for it for a specific reason?
Yeah, asked when we spoke about the size of the hospital and how we'd been reduced when the original hospital had been demolished, and the statistics around about 2000 explained that looking at a population that'd be about 12,000 after about 2015, but down to about 9,000 now. And so we asked for the figures to see just how often it is at maximum capacity. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 7, mineral collection acquisition assessment. We have a mover for that. Move councillor Chandler, seconded. Councillor Byrne, councillor Chandler.
Yeah, on this report, when I read through it, it's definitely not viable for Broken Hill City Council to buy this collection. If it's not from here, and we can't get enough out of it in the town. We're only spending ratepayers' money on something that's not needed.
Would you like to add that we do write back to him and thank him for the offer? But
Yeah,
um,
we've got to do that, yeah.
any other speaker, councillor Byrne?
Yeah, I agree that we need to write back to them, thanking them, like, obviously, you know, I'd like to commend the staff down there after that tour we had last week. It's it's obvious to me that there's a passion there for Broken Hills mining and mineral heritage from the people that are working there. They did show us that, you know, they are still going through our significant collection. So obviously, until that's gone through, then that's probably, we should put off holding it, purchasing any more collections.
Councillor Chandler? No, you want to turn your mic off? So, any other speakers? Councillor Jewett?
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't know if there's any chance open for them to actually go back and try and identify some of those, you know, maybe reduce that collection with some that they can actually track or not. I mean, otherwise
I
it's
think
just sort of
what-
a bunch of objects without any sort of history. You could say this is this and that's that, but there might be some really good pieces in there as well. Do they sort of, this person sort of show any interest in actually tracking their whereabouts, or it's not possible?
I think what the issue is that the cost of the value of the collection itself is limited, and it may be wholesale value or retail value of 4,000, but its wholesale value would be significantly less. So what council would be doing would be paying premium prices for a collection, and then either keep that collection or try and sell it on as mineral pieces within the collection, within our own collection, or as selling them out the front as souvenirs. And the reality is that unless we did detailed valuation, chances are it's not worth the money we paid. And if we were to sell it, we wouldn't make back the money, or we keep a part of a collection that really will cost us a lot to value to see if it's worth even what it's worth.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
That's
Just
what I
also,
got.
like,
Councillor
just
Byrne?
talking to the guys down there, they are, you know, very, very passionate about that part of it. And I'm sure if there was something significant in that collection, then they would come to us to purchase separately to the whole collection, I dare say.
Yeah. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 8, draft proposed licence of the Alma Institute. We have a mover, councillor Boland, seconded councillor Chandler. Councillor Boland?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Reading through this report, I believe it's a win for all organisations involved, and it's that Alma Institute's a lovely old building on Patton Street in a prime location. It's going to be great to see it being used, and then further, the Fred Jobson Centre being utilised for extra childcare places with the Playtimes preschool is great news as well. And as I said, it's just a great outcome for both organisations, and I really hope going forward the CWA will get a longer licence once they're settled into their new location.
Thank you, councillor Boland. Councillor Chandler, you'd like to speak on that? No. Councillor Deputy Mayor Hickey.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Kennedy. Just a question with Playtime Preschool missing out on their funding. Well, can I ask to the general manager, will they proceed further with childcare with extra spots?
Thank you through you, Mayor Kennedy, and apologies for earlier calling you Mayor Tom, through Mayor Kennedy. Keep it formal. But yes, so we've met with the president of Playtime on a couple of occasions since they were unsuccessful, and we've provided them with support that will continue to advocate with them to the New South Wales government and federal government when applicable around getting that additional funding. We'll also work with them as well around how we can assist as a council for their expansion. It's a matter of it's a matter of when they expand as opposed to a matter of if, which is why we've recommended that we proceed with the CWA moving into the AMR Institute to free up that space. And if we can get them moving quickly into that area, they can expand under their current staff numbers, which is what the city most desires. And we have written to the New South Wales government as well, seeking some feedback as to why they were unsuccessful with their grant application. Given that we did provide them a letter of support, as we did with the other grant applicant as well. Thank you, Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, General Manager. Yeah, look, it really is important, and it's important to free up that building to potentially expand our childcare in the future. Do we have any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 9 is the investment report for December.
Move that way.
Councillor Boland moved, seconded.
Seconded.
Councillor Allgate, Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. As normal, well-balanced portfolio, I should say, in safe portfolio, which is what we need. And I note today the trimmed mean CPI came out at 3.2%, a little bit lower than expectations, and the headline inflation at 2.4%. Down from 2.8, and basically that means on average our term deposits in the bank are getting 4.78%, so they're above CPI and inflation, so the money is growing, which is a great thing. Little bit of a tough run if you're on the Magnificent Seven during the week in the share portfolio.
All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 10 is the Broken Hill Regional Aquatic Centre profit share reinvestment proposal. Councillor Allgate.
Move the recommendations item 1 and 2, but also add item 3, that the Marimar Indigenous Program involving an expenditure of 43,000 be deferred until a memorandum of understanding has been discussed with the council.
You have a seconder for that? Councillor Chandler. Speak to that, Councillor Allgate.
Only to say that it's good that there's a profit sharing situation in place when profits are made. And it's my understanding from the contract that there's a set level where money's profits taken in above that particular point will be shared 50-50 with the council. And the Y New South Wales has an obligation to spend its money 30% in reinvesting in the pool in terms of infrastructure and improvements, and 70% back to the community. So the $102,000 is a significant amount. 30,000 of that goes to various improvements within the centre itself. And given that the centre is now starting to age, there's always room for improvement. I think the important thing is that these programs get off the ground and prove successful. And one would hope that, I know the street gym is pretty popular. I'm sure that the Y have got the community at heart, and they've certainly got the young people at heart. And everything they're doing is they're doing it going in the right direction. But it's always difficult to implement some of these programs and get them to a point where they're fully successful. But at least the money's there to try. And I think it's a good thing that that money goes back into the community.
Have any other speakers? Councillor Turley?
Sorry, wrong one. Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and I absolutely support Councillor Allgate's views about what great programs they are and how accessible they are. I'm just curious though, why we need an MOU with Marama when this is about the WISE programs.
It's an MOU between the Y and Marama.
Oh, so it's
between
not,
Council. So until they sign their memorandum of understanding for the partnership, once that's done, then we'll.
because the motion says it's discussed by council. So should it be clearer that it's an MOU with the YMCA and Marama?
Yeah, so.
So I'd be
that's
happy
what-
to support that. I just wasn't sure.
So
So
the-
I just thought it was an MOU, Marama and council having an MOU.
no, so the MOU is between the YMCA and
Yeah,
Marama, which
Okay.
hasn't been signed yet. That will be, the MOU will be provided before it's signed to council to see if we want to have input into the MOU. And once that's done, we can then approve it.
okay. So just to clarify, it's an MOU between the YMCA and Marama?
Yeah.
But it's going to be discussed by council.
It's going to come to council, yes, because council has a right to it is. So it's support, so the money, it has to be supported by council as per our contract. So we want to make sure that council gets credit for any input into any programs that the Y does with that profit share. We have any other speakers? I'd just like to say that they are fantastic programs. I think without a doubt, they will benefit all. The $49,000 street gym does actually or piggybacks off a program for alternate suspension from school, which will allow for kids that maybe could be suspended to work, to go out into the community and keep going to school. That program often results in 94% of children that do part of that program going back to school with a 68% less behavioural problems. The street gym program will work in conjunction with that. The $10,000 donations to particular organisations, which will also be passed on to make sure that council do agree with how that money is spent, is another good thing. The Marama Indigenous program is where there will be 50 memberships of the YMCA to people that will need them, particularly people that may be suffering from chronic diabetes, for example. Anything that can encourage people to be active and reduce their reoccurrence of diabetes is an important thing. Chronic diabetes in the community, in the whole community, if not managed properly, can result in loss of limbs and other really detrimental effects on people's livelihood. So anything that we can do to support that is a good thing. Councillor Byrne?
I just wanted to echo everyone's comments there. It was a great briefing from the new management down there. It just shows that they're really starting to hit their straps and get their act together and put these things together. And it shows that that these programs that they're suggesting hit all levels and of the children, doesn't matter what background or social background or that you come from, that the Y and the council support helping everyone out.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Any other comments? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 11, development application, change of, Councillor Boland to leave the room. Change of hours of operation, Adults Transport Service, 117 Rackhouse Street, Broken Hill. Do we have a mover for that? Moved councillor Gillett, seconded Deputy Mayor Hickey. Councillor Gillett, would you like to speak to that?
If there's anything we can do to help small business in Broken Hill is to be applauded. And also the fact that that is already in an industrial area, we need to encourage it.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Turley?
Just a question, Mr. Mayor, has these new proposals of time been consulted with the community area? And with the person who's been concerned about the noise coming in that area?
Well, the person that you're referring to was at the council meeting in December, so.
I was an
most
apology.
Most definitely have been consulted.
They have,
Um,
okay.
And did speak to the December council meeting. Unfortunately, at that meeting, there was a few absentees, and there was also a few people that, a couple of people that, councillors that declared an interest, and we had no quorum to make a decision. Do we have any other speakers for councillor Allgate?
Just to add that I think the new hours that have been offered or in the resolution are quite reasonable. After all, there's an industrial area. The thing is that Addard family, they were moved from Patton Street for the very reason that they were undertaking commercial enterprise in a residential area. They relocated in an area that was set aside for the very purpose. And from what I've seen of Addard's over a period of many years, it's not a noisy business at all. And I think it's quite reasonable to offer the hours of operation that goes with this particular recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Allgate. Any other speakers? Look, they're all development applications when there are objections are a difficult thing for council to deal with, and councillors have to weigh up the pros and cons. All development applications have the potential to affect a neighbouring property. So when making the decisions, you weigh up the pros and the cons. It is an industrial area. It will be expanded to 9 o'clock. 12 o'clock was sought. So that's our decision to make, and it is a difficult one. All those in favour of the resolution or the motion? Councillor Turley, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Allgate, Councillor Jewett, Councillor Chandler, Councillor Gillett, Deputy Mayor Hickey, and myself, Mayor Kennedy. Declare it carried unanimously. The motion was passed as written in the agenda. Item number 12, development application, demolish of all existing buildings on site and erection of a new steel frame commercial building incorporating offices, amenities and workshops and associated signage, 92 Crystal Street, Broken Hill. Do we have a mover for that?
I'd like to move.
I'll move that way.
Kennedy,
Move the recommend.
I'd like to move an amendment.
We don't have to move an amendment. You don't have to move an amendment. You can, if you move a motion, I'll make it easier. I'll have the motion and then you can move an amendment. Yeah. Councillor Allgate?
I'll move the motion that the recommendations 1 and 2 be received
Second.
and acted upon.
Second that. Deputy Mayor Hickey. Would you like to speak to that before Councillor Byrne moves an amendment?
Well, I thought it was appropriate to demolish the place before I even looked at it, knowing the history. My son is very close by, and that area has been, that particular block, the building on that, I'm not sure how old it is, but it must be one of the very, very early buildings in Broken Hill that housed some of the early miners and so on. But having had an inspection this afternoon and seen the state that the building is in particular, the the underpinning or the foundation, the entire foundation is just spreading away with salt damp and years of erosion. And there's no doubt that to underpin that particular building, just to underpin it, would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's not exaggerating at all. To effectively underpin it, you would have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. And after you've done that, you're still left with probably a century-old building, and the walls are fretting. The ceiling joists are sagging. It's got a new tin roof, the new corrugated iron roof that would have been put on during the hail, I suppose. But some of the timber work that's holding that up is almost non-existent now. The place really is a candidate for full demolishment. And I read the report, and I understand that our heritage advisor, Liz Vine, says, oh, it can be fixed and blah, blah, blah. That's easy to say. I don't know whether Liz Vines has been inside the building. I'm not sure about that. But anybody with an ounce of common sense, and certainly anybody that has any building knowledge whatsoever, would have condemned that place 50 years ago. And I think now is the time to do it. And now there's the time to make way for a new development. And after all, the council is charged with the responsibility of trying to encourage development in Broken Hill. Here's an opportunity for the council to encourage development, to potentially perhaps increase employment, and to replace an eyesore with a very attractive workshop, come office, come amenities and so on, with off-street parking for 6 cars. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better development on a block of that size. The only impediment is the building that's there. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm more than happy to move that we go ahead with the recommendations as written.
Thank you, councillor Allgate. Just before you go, we have councillor Byrne who wants to move an amendment.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that, if we could go back to the applicant and to cost and provider rendering of what the build would look like with just the facade kept, to have council's engineers to review the provided engineers report. So we've done our due diligence there as well. And for council's heritage advisor to visit the site, so the applicant in person can show their concerns of the visibility of the building. I'll speak to the motion. Whilst I 100% agree, the building.
I'll just grab a seconder for you. Seconder, councillor Turley.
I echo everyone's concerns in the building. The building after the visit is in a very dilapidated state. But you know, it is uneconomical to repair as a whole. But I believe that, you know, it's important for us as a council to preserve some heritage. You know, sometimes when you get the old and the new, if it's just the facade was kept and you put something new on the back, in a rendering of that comes out, it does look good. You know, obviously for a cost. I think we also did do our due diligence around the engineers report and have just our council engineers just to review, go out to the site and say, yep, the building is clearly ready for demolition, but is there any way that we can keep the facade on that building?
Thank you. Do we have a speaker against the amendment? Councillor Chandler and then councillor.
Yeah, look, I've done a bit of building and I'm actually a qualified stonemason. Okay. The joints, not worth saving. It doesn't look pretty. And if we keep going, it's only going to cost money for somebody to get somebody else to look at it, more reports. It's going to cost these people money, and then they're going to say, well, I'll walk away. And we can't afford to lose a brand new building and the chance of employing more workers staying here. So it should be gone. Get on with life.
Councillor Turley, you'd like to speak? Councillor, go, councillor Byrne.
Look, I'm not against the development at all. I'm just trying to, and I know where the guys come from. I do you know, I'm wrestling myself. I'm from an engineering background. I can see that there might be value there. I just want us to do our due diligence. So at the end of the day, we all have the right information to say that building is a complete demolition, or some of it might be, can or may be able to be saved.
Councillor Turley, you'd like to speak for the
Yeah,
amendment?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, can I support the amendment? And firstly, I just need to congratulate the applicants and say, it's great we're having a new building. It's great that, you know, it's such a huge block. But given that this particular building is in our LEP, and that it is a registered heritage building, that I think it's important that we look at options about how we retain part of the building. And I was really pleased to hear from the applicant, one of the applicants today, that in fact Liz Vines had come up with a compromise around this building. And you've got to remember, this is Crystal Street. It is a whole heap of hotels that were along there. The importance and significance of the heritage. It has an opportunity, like the Peary building has had, that Liz Vines was able to get state funding for. It has the opportunity to have a new lease of life. And I think for all of that, we can only but ask one question, you know, what is the opportunity here with a heritage advisor who has advised us not just to support the complete demolition of this building, that we support her in this process, and that we work with the applicants to come forth with the best outcome. Now, I walked in the building and went, oh my goodness me, you know, as you walk in, because you know, every heritage that's over 100 years old, of course there's going to be problems with it. But that's why we're Australia's first heritage city. We actually invest in our buildings, we retain them. We always say the past is our future. But when I walked in and realised the work that had been done, and I understand by the applicant, all that was done wisely during the electricity outage, you know, you could see why they took that opportunity. But those front couple of buildings, or those front two rooms, if we could save them, they could actually add a story to a new business growing from the old. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hickey.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. Just being in support of the original motion, I've been involved with real estate and building for the last 35 years, and that is unsavable. You know, even the front of that, the cost to do that would, adding to the prospective builder, would be just uneconomical, and it would, and they'd end up walking away from the whole project. Even the cost to go and get further reports could end the whole thing, because it's not worth saving at this, you know, the cost that it would cost to do it. And as I say, I've been involved in this for a long time. I've got quotes on my own house that burnt down. It's well over 100 years old and in much better condition than that. And it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to try and repair it. And so, no, look, I'm just in support of the motion. Thank you.
Well, all those in favour of the amendment? Councillor Turley and Councillor Burns, yeah. No, all those against? Declare the amendment lost. Speakers against the motion? Speakers for the motion? Look, the reality is that it's a local heritage building. In 2013, council did put a number of buildings along Crystal Street into our local heritage plan. Probably the most significant building there is that it's not only just locally listed, is our Geo Centre, which is a great example. There's a number of other buildings along there that are much better examples of local heritage. No one likes to lose any heritage. Everyone in this council chamber, I'm sure, wherever they can, will keep heritage. Just an example of the costs is the walls that we've used to save at the library. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to save a wall that is significant to the community, and the council pays for that. Council has funds, ability to get grants, but also the time to do these things. Businesses don't have the time. It's fine for us to say, get engineers or get further detailed reports. This business owner wants to build a shed and get on with building his businesses. Businesses can't wait 6 months or 12 months to act. The council is here to make decisions that without a doubt, the building is in a poor state of repair. Not only is the building in a poor state of repair, it'll cost hundreds of thousands, including even if you were just to keep a facade. There is much better examples of heritage along that street, and for that reason, I'm in support of the motion. All those in favour of the motion? Councillor Boland, Councillor Allgate, Councillor Jewett, Councillor Chandler, Councillor Gillett, Deputy Mayor Hickey, and myself. Against, Councillor Turley and Councillor Byrne. I declare the motion carried. Item number 13 is the proposed compulsory acquisition of lot 1378 in deposit plan 757298 and lot 1373 in deposit plan 757298. Do we have a mover for that? Move Councillor Gillett, seconded Councillor Hickey. Councillor Gillett, can you speak to that, Councillor Hickey?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Kennedy. Those two blocks are both out on King Street. They're either side of a big vacant allotment of Crown land, which we hope to be able to try and get as well from Crown Lands. But we first off, these are owned by the Education Department. They've indicated they're not going to use them. They're not going to protest against it or anything. It's a compulsory acquisition. They've advised us to go ahead down this track. If we can get these two and then go for the Crown land at the same time, it will open up a big housing block for us, which we need at the moment. Thank you.
Yes. Councillor Turley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to check, have we started a business case around this proposal? Because as we progress, we've been talking about this for some time. I note that in the report, it says there's no, there's no issues about any native title claim. But I'm just thinking that if we're proposing this, we're going to have to put the funding together for sewerage, for streets and other areas. It's quite significant funding. Have we started the proposal for a business case on this?
That would be putting the cart before the horse. What we need to do is get the land. Once we get that land, you then can start the processes. We have been speaking with different groups that would be willing to do residential development straight away, but there's also NDIS, also domestic violence housing. We also have been speaking with aged care providers that are willing to use that once land. So there's plenty of opportunities there that will arise once we get that land. But until we get that land, I wouldn't like to see council's resources putting us into or pigeon boxing us into a position where this is our plan when we have many options going forward. No, and not interested in doing it at this stage. Any other comments? Any other comments? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 14 is Silver Street Tree Replacement Project. Deputy Mayor Hickey.
Yeah, move that way, as written.
As written, seconded. Councillor Chandler.
I will just, if I can
Yeah,
speak on it. Yeah. I think on top of that, the arbitrist had another look, that the trees have recovered quite well from their initial thing. And I've just talked to the general manager. I think the arbitrist has spoken to general manager about that. Would you?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy, through you. Yeah, so an update that has come in since the business paper was generated was that the arborist did review the works that were carried out late last year on Friday in regards to the recovery of the trees after their root bases were cut in preparation for transplant. Originally, it was proposed that they'd be transplanted in October in the spring. Once they'd fully recovered, and then we'd be looking at the footpath and curb and gutter replacement. They've advised as of earlier this week that they've actually recovered a lot quicker than they expected, and the best time now would be to relocate them in March, going into autumn, into their new positions within the Jubilee Oval precinct, then allowing council time to replace the footpath and curb and gutter before this AFL season commences in late April. Thank you, Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, General Manager.
A question for the general manager.
Yep.
Just on so we're removing ficuses and replacing them with ficuses. $500,000 is a significant spend to fix the footpath. Are we going to do any kind of remedial works to make sure this doesn't happen again and that we don't have to be back there in 5-10 years' time to spend another $500,000 on footpaths.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy, through you. Yes, certainly. So the one of the issues that council experienced, or the community's experienced with these trees, and you can see it from the Beryl Street end, the ones at the Beryl Street end are a lot smaller than the ones that are closer to the wetlands. It's because they get into a higher water level. And unfortunately, when they were first planted, they weren't planted with root barriers to protect that infrastructure around them. And so moving forward, a different species will be selected that isn't as invasive for that the particular ficus that's been planted at this point in time. But root barriers will be put in place to protect that infrastructure moving forward, to reduce that maintenance. Of course, over time, there's always going to be some little damage to infrastructure, but it won't be to the extent that it has been now, where it's infiltrated and impacting the heritage grandstand. Thank you, Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, General Manager. And we have some experts. Look, any other speakers? Look, I think those trees are magnificent, and anything we could do to save those trees and protect the infrastructure of the Jubilee Oval was well worth spent. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 15 is nomination for the appointment of community representatives to the 355 committees. Do we have a mover for that? Move Councillor Turley, seconded Councillor Byrne. Councillor Turley.
Oh, I think it's very good that we've had so many applicants and I think there's still quite a few vacancies, Mr. Mayor. I'm just trying to read that final report. But I wish all the new applicants well. And just a question, are we putting in an orientation program for all our new 355 committees and advisory group committees?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor West.
Yeah, great to see the nominations. Just wondering is there a cutoff for the user group ones, and will we be going back to those user groups if they haven't nominated by a certain date?
While they remain empty, I think they remain.
Yeah, well, we're sort of getting at is we're moving, say, the Amaroba to a user group, and it's probably imperative that all those users are on that committee. So we should go back to them and tell them.
Oh, right.
How important is it they are nominate someone
yeah,
for that committee?
Yeah, no worries. That can be followed up. That can be followed up. Yeah. Councillor Hewitt.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it is great to see the community joining our committees. It's important, especially with that community involvement. I did notice that there are about 11 wanting to get on the art gallery. Is there a never-ending number, or is there sort of a reasonable limit?
So 7 community group members on the art gallery advisory committee. We have 3 members, the council members that are members of the art gallery advisory committee. What's your thoughts on this? There's 11 nominated, so it would require a change in the.
Well, it's pretty hard to say who you want or who you don't, and like the quality of people that are locked up for it's terrific. So we've chosen 7.
Oh, you've gone through?
Yeah.
Would you like to name them for the
And
meeting?
we've chosen Rick Ball, Maureen Clark, Kathy Ferry, Jenny Catnar, Kelly Leonard, Julie Hosberg, and Barbara Plough.
So would you like to move an amendment to councillor?
I'm happy to
Alexander?
accept it as an amendment.
Happy to accept it. So would you also like to, once that's formed, because I think it's important when you do get people that nominate for these advisory committees that they are given an opportunity. So you pick these people if your first item of business could look at, because I don't think council should be changing the constitutions so readily, but I think if the committee itself wants to change the constitution to allow more people on that committee, it would be a good idea. But I think it needs to be driven from the Art Gallery Advisory Committee itself rather than from anyone else. So if you move those 7 and they're on that committee, then they can move if they want to expand the number to allow for those additional people that are nominated. It'll be up to your group.
Yeah, I think that everybody would agree. They'd rather sit down and talk it out anyway. They might have different opinions than I, so if we can go to the first meeting and sort it out with everybody who agrees to.
You happy to accept that, councillor?
Yeah, I'm happy to accept that. I would just add to that, you know, you often think it's a good thing to expand a committee. The problem is you miss your quorum and you can't have a meeting at all.
Okay.
And that particular committee, over the many, many years that I had been on it, had problems. As soon as we expand to be accommodating, we could not get a quorum and we couldn't meet.
Yeah,
So-
which has been a common problem with whenever we expand it. So it'll be up to the committee itself when you talk through, and you can recommend to council whatever you see fit. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 16 is the annual and financial reports, end of term reports. Councillor Boland,
Move that way, Mayor Kennedy.
seconded. Councillor Jewett, Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Computer is working now, so I can bring up the report. Important reports. It's good to see where the committees are up to. They put in a lot of work, and it's good to see these reports done. It's a bit of the compliance, but they've got them all in, and it's good to see.
All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Councillor Boland, you're going to move a late motion about trains.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I was going to make a joke about autism then, but I won't. I could easily make it about myself, so I'll keep my fellow neurodiverse people out of my motion. But as noted, the minister with the New South Wales train link only comes once a week. I think there's an opportunity to extend that train service to at least 3 times a week. It not only services Broken Hill, it also grow our tourism industry as well as service our remote Far West communities such as Ivanhoe, Menindee and everywhere in between. And I think there's been a lot of focus on rail transport in the state. The state government, the former state government, the coalition state government spent probably billions, if not trillions of dollars on the metro in Sydney. I think the least they can do is extend that rail service out to Broken Hill. They will have some XPT trains coming out of service on the East Coast line shortly that could quite possibly service the Broken Hill line. And then there's another option to get out to Broken Hill at an affordable rate, something that the Indian Pacific used to offer, but we now know that is a tourist train.
Happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Happy to second that.
Yeah.
Any other speakers? You speak to that, councillor Turley?
Just to say, this is something that we'd lobbied for before, not 3 trains, but 2. We've seen the impact of when we lost regular train service on our tourism. It is certainly an advantage for our government to have, our state government to have the pensioner travel for these trains. And although there is a bus service, you know, that's nothing compared to going on a train. You know, for all of it, anything we can do to bring people to Broken Hill to have the opportunity, not only for tourism, but for work and for future conferences. It'd be great to give them all measures for travel. Thank you.
Councillor Byrne?
Yeah, just echo that as well. Also, as it wasn't across when the Indian Pacific stopped dropping passengers off here, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And I think that even maybe down the track lobbying them to start that again due to, you know, the amount, you know, the Big Bash and or the Monday Bash and the other festivals that we have. I think that there's definitely some kind of positives there for a privatised company to drop people off to Broken Hill. I know back in the day when I was at school, I caught the train to Adelaide, the Indian Pacific, and it was one of the, you know, it was a good way to travel and it was cheap. So, yeah, I think lobbying that to come back again would also be a good idea.
No, thank you. Yeah, look, when we lost the train services, it did have an impact on tourism in Broken Hill. It also had an impact on people having accessibility to both Adelaide and Sydney. Privatisation hits everyone heavily. It now costs thousands of dollars to travel on the Indian Pacific, and you must take it from Sydney to Perth. There is no stops on the way, even if you decide to go from Adelaide to Broken Hill to Adelaide, you pay the full $3,000 or $4,000. So it won't happen, but we need to, it should never have happened in the first place. But we did fight at the time, which was many years ago now, and we need to continue to fight. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Action list, item number 17, Deputy Mayor Hickey.
Move that way. Mayor Kennedy, we have got a traffic matter. I'll bring that up in there.
Well, it's in the
Yep.
traffic reports are in there.
I'm not quite as good as Dave Gallagher at this, the yellows, reds and greens, but we'll let that part go. Traffic problem down in near Burnells in Oxide Street, that there's no line marking. Send through you to the general manager if we could have a look at that to mark some lines for the parking. And also the next, between that block and the next block, there seems to be lots of complaints about long-term parking, people staying there, not being, whether the traffic committee could have a look and come up with a plan for those couple of blocks, especially on this side of the street, the western side of the street. It just seems to be jammed up and shop owners are whinging like you wouldn't
I
believe.
think there is a petition going around for exactly that.
Is there? Right.
Just through the general manager to the manager of infrastructure, if you don't mind. Yeah. So just one of the issues there is, for example, the 15-minute parking is when people park, half the car will be in the 15-minute parking because they can't identify where the 15-minute park starts. So if we do line there, this is, and you'll be the person that knows best, it'll cause the parks to be separated properly instead of what happens at the moment. You might have almost a car in between two cars. So you lose a couple of parks because they're too spread out. If you identified each position, it would make it better.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Yes, that's correct. And it is something that we have done around some of the schools in town to assist with that parking. In that area itself, as you mentioned, there is a 6-month trial at the moment for the 15-minute park in front of one of the businesses. At the end of that 6-month trial, the traffic committee will go back out to the businesses and the community to seek feedback on how that was and then what we can do moving forward. But we can incorporate the additional street as well in that whole area. Thank you.
Yes, and just the line marking would make a big difference. All in favour of the action report? Carried unanimously. We move on questions taken on notice from the previous council meeting. Do we have the mover for that? Move Councillor Chandler, second Councillor Boland. Anyone speak on that? No, all in favour? Carried unanimously. Question, item 16, questions for the next meeting. Do we have any questions, Councillor Turley?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, the chairs at the lounge chairs at the airport are in a terrible state, and I've got images that someone sent to me, and I just wondered, when are they going to be replaced? The airport is such a significant building to our organisation and to our community, and to have equipment there that looks like it should be in when my sons were 16 in their spare bedroom. It's just terrible. And I'll show the general manager and any councillors afterwards if they'd like to see them.
I'm sure that can be put into the budgets for next year and then decided by councillors whether that is approved.
And my next question is around disability parking. And there is a lot of someone told me about the disability parking in front of the Old Royal in particular, that anybody with a disability that gets out of their car, there's no ramp to go up to the footpath. They have to walk along the street and then find a ramp to get up. And I think that, I don't know how that would meet any of our standards for disability parking. And then I thought, well, what other disability parking doesn't meet that? So can we have that reviewed and a report back to council at the next meeting?
Look, there's a number of disability parks that don't have ramps very close, and that includes Blue Frog Optics. So really, It's just something that needs to be brought up with our disability action plan, and hopefully at some stage, we move along and get those done, but, always best using our committees to, drive those. Councillor Turley, anything else?
Yeah, can we get a report back of the progress of that? Because this is something clearly, as you said, Mr. Mayor, it's been ongoing, and yet we have our elderly and those with disability at risk. And I'm sure, you know, this is something that we should progress, like we've progressed, you know, other issues like the trees at the Jubilee. If it's
Yeah.
actually affecting our community, it
And
needs
it
to
has
become a
for- Has for
priority.
20 years, councillor Turley.
Yeah, well,
And how long have you been a councillor?
Councillor, I'm just raising the
Abs-
questions that the community raised.
And
with
they
me.
have been raised, so don't
Thank you.
criticise trees at the same time as you
I
talk
voted
about
for
our
the trees, Mr. Mayor. I
our
don't know
disability
why.
inclusion plan, which has been one of the best documents that have been done by this
Thank
council
you,
and has
Mr. Mayor.
addressed disability. Could you not interrupt while I'm speaking,
Sorry,
councillor
Mr. Mayor.
Turley? Yeah, you should be sorry. You do interrupt a lot while I'm speaking. We have a disability inclusion plan, document that's been the best thing that's come out of this city for disability access. We have footpaths done. This council was a proactive council when it comes to disability inclusion and disability access in this. To criticise council and then say that we're spending money on trees is a disgusting comment.
Actually, you misread that, Mr. Mayor. I actually said we can do it for trees, we can do it for this. I think it would
You
be.
were having a go, councillor Turley. You were having a go.
Mr. Mayor, I wasn't. I
You were
promised I
having a
wasn't.
go. We passed 400,000 for footpaths and trees. If we can do it for trees, we can get ramps, which is cheaper, is what you're saying. When this council has been spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on disability access and improving footpaths all over the city, and you make such a comment to try and belittle this council, it's disgusting.
I apologise, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't doing that.
You were doing
I
that,
was
councillor
not, Mr.
Turley. You
Mayor.
were doing that.
Thank you. You can misread it all you like. I wasn't.
You were. Moved. Any other questions, councillor Gillett?
Yes, please, Tom. Mayor Tom, with the disability paperwork, there was something brought up the other day by two people who were going to Adelaide on the Rex flight. There were two people that were going to at Royal Adelaide Hospital in wheelchairs, and they couldn't access the toilets because there's a ridge between the tiles and the other surface, and the people wheeling the wheelchairs were not strong enough to get the people up and over without tipping them out of the chair.
This is at our.
Yeah, and
Yep.
this was only last week.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Councillor
just got
Byrne?
one, had a couple from the public. In regards to probably the traffic management at the cemetery, it seems that people aren't obeying the stop signs and give way signs, and there's been nearly a couple of accidents of people trying to get in and out at the same time. I was wondering if there could be something done around like a traffic management plan, like an in and out gate or something like that to maybe avoid a potential accident in the future.
We just have a look at what could be done there. Yeah. Any other questions? No. We move to item number 17, the second public forum session of 15-minute duration will consider submissions from the public regarding matters that were considered by council at this meeting only. Speakers are allocated 2 minutes. Do we have any speakers from the public gallery? Yes, thank you, GG.
I'm wondering whether council is aware that the 40-kilometre zone is still in place outside Williama High School, and whether the traffic committee could look at that before the school holidays is over.
You happy to take that on? Yep, thank you. Do you have any other speakers? Just like to say I was just going to say we've got gin experts here that are going overseas soon.
Sorry, very unplanned. Melanie Gates here. in my role as a former Landcare Broken Hill coordinator, we ran a day called the Clean Up Pro Heart Way Day. And we had some councillors turn up. Thank you. I receive a text at least once a week from one of our members, and he actually records the amount of rubbish that's picked up along that way, and he's asking for a bin. And I said I would take an opportunity to find out whether that's possible. I no longer am in that position, but I thought while I'm here, I'll jump in and let him know that I've said that.
It is possible, and not only is that, council is likely to include its access and inclusion for access, and there will be hopefully some sort of roadway or path out there, the walking path that will be lit up. So it'll look a lot better soon as well.
Fantastic. And thank you again for your support of that day too, Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any other speakers? No, that